Mr. Williams, when you're ready.
Thanks. And you'll be happy to see, Your Honor, that we followed the court's order to all dress the same. I don't want the jury to think, however, that means we're all on the same side. Morning.
Good morning.
It's okay if I call you Mark?
Yep.
I'm going to try to be a little more surgical here. It's morning, a little more awake. Hopefully I haven't had too much coffee. So I'm going to hit some topics. I did want to follow up because we had talked about the various things that Kacee lied to you about and also got you to believe. You'd already talked about the cancer and the various maladies, right?
Yes.
And the needs for medications and things like that, right?
Yeah.
But she also led you to believe she was on hospice.
Yes.
Remember? And you did.
Yep.
I want to touch on this subject of insurance in this life insurance stuff. Now, you talked a little bit about it yesterday. Do you remember that?
Yep.
This issue of life insurance was bantered about by Kacee for years, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And you even, as you testified yesterday, it just didn't make sense even to you for reasons that included financial, right?
Yes.
She had once told you, well, I've got some boyfriend who's paying the premiums, correct?
One time.
Oh, paying one premium?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And, I mean, again, it's Kacee telling you, but you didn't have any proof or reason to determine whether that was even correct, right?
Right.
And when Kacee used this discussion in that topic, she would often use it divisively, wouldn't she? In other words, she'd sort of say, well, I'm changing the beneficiary to this person, or people are after my life insurance policy and things like that. Do you remember that?
Yes.
I mean, one time she even was accusatory against you in relation to trying to get it when there was a discussion with whether Kyle might be a beneficiary, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and I think you expressed, but you can do it again, it must have been pretty frustrating to even have her discussion of this life insurance be divisive as to you and your brother.
Yeah.
But even as recently, I guess let's do that. As April of 24, before Kacee passed, do you remember her even talking about that subject divisively vis-a-vis Meggan? I need to show it. Well, you can. Yeah, go ahead and put it up without. In some text messages, do you recall that?
Text messages with me?
Yeah, Kacee and you are talking about Kacee trying to tell you, hey, Meggan just wants my life insurance policy. I've taken her off of it. You shouldn't even let her come to the house. I don't like her, etc. I'm paraphrasing. I'm going to show you the actual words in a minute, okay?
Okay.
But do you recall that? You were kind of supportive of saying, okay, I'm here to help if you want me to intervene.
I don't know that I recall specifically that, but that kind of conversation, I would say, yeah, that probably happened.
And, I mean, you know now, do you know now? I don't know what the government has shared with you, to be honest, Mark, but do you know now that while she's telling you she wants help getting rid of Kacee bugging her and coming over to the house, she's also simultaneously, I'm sorry, Meggan, coming over to the house, she's simultaneously texting Meggan about coming to the house, texting Meggan about the same old subjects of being sick, I'm nearly dying, I think I'll try to commit suicide with insulin, all those stuff. Do you know that while she's telling you to, sort of splitting you off, asking you not to have communications with Meggan, she's inviting Meggan over?
No, I didn't know that.
Do you know it now? Or do you? I mean, have they shown you the text messages between you and Kacee?
No,
Have they shown you text messages between you, between Meggan and Kacee at the same time that Casey's texting you?
no.
Let me show you an example. You probably heard, you've been in a few hearings, and you probably know by now that there are tens of thousands of text messages over the course of the relationship, just back to five years before. Let's show you what, let's talk about it as defense one. This is a text exchange from April 24th, 2024. Looks like it's in the morning. But just looking at the top of the green bubble here, it says, "From Kacee Girl." Is that what Kacee often had as a nickname?
Yeah,
And it's to a number that says Mark. Can you look at that number real quick and see?
yep,
That's your number, right?
yep.
So does this look like text messages? You can go ahead to the blue bubble and look at that blue bubble and see if it's you back to her.
Okay,
Okay, so this, you agree, accurately represents a text stream between you and Kacee in April of 2024?
okay.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and read through it, so you don't have to, but follow along if you will. So, well, I'm sorry, I'm gonna move to publish it as exhibit number 1.
No objection.
Do we need different numbers?
Oh, do you want?
Or do we have defendants exhibit 1 and states exhibit 1? What's easier for you?
I'm happy to do letters if you like.
Letters might be more clear.
Sorry, Judge,
So, that's
every
all right.
court practice is different.
Yeah, that's all right. So defendants exhibit A,
A.
and you're offering this.
Yes, and it sounds like there's no objection.
Court received defendants exhibit A, you can publish it.
Thank you, and then we'll get these numbered correctly on the ultimate provision to the court. So I should check first. Again, I'm sorry. So we've got Kacee Girl telling you about Meggan, that I think she's still hoping I'm dying. That's all she talks about because she thinks she's getting my life insurance policy. I never told her I took her off it because I didn't want to start fighting. But it's like our friendship isn't a friendship anymore. Again, this is April. All she'll ever talk about is me dying and asking about my health, and I don't want to think about my health, and I don't want to talk about it, but I'm sure it's all money. But I called her out on it, she would try to cry and say I was rude for even thinking that, and she just cares about me and doesn't want me to be in pain anymore. I'm just tired of having this same conversation with her. You see that?
Yep,
Now, you would be sympathetic to the supposed position of Kacee, right?
yep,
And so you say, you need to put in writing what you want done with the life insurance, and then I'll call her and I'll put an end to this if you want me to, right?
yep,
Scrolling down, she doesn't seek your help, right? She says everything is in writing. Now, as far as you know, that's not true, right?
right,
But she made mad that she went through my life insurance policy when I went out of town with Keller, when I was living at her house. By the way, she wasn't living at her house. That would have been years before this was written, right?
yeah,
And I had letters and things with friends and family for after I passed. So after me and her went and planned my funeral, I told her I wasn't telling her how much it was or anything because I had surprises for people to get after I was gone, but she went through all my stuff anyway. I didn't even put it back to make it look like she didn't go through it. I'm sorry, she even put it back. So I called my attorney. You're not aware that she ever had an attorney, right?
No.
And I changed everything and I put it in your name and Kay's. Kay's your sister, right?
Yep,
Caitlin is her name, but you guys called her Kay.
yep,
Of course, that's not true in terms of, and put it in your name in case you never saw any proof that anything got put in your name or Kay's, right?
right,
I don't want her to know. She can be pissed off after I'm gone. I'm just gonna block her off of my phone, so if she gets a hold of you, just don't respond to her. And hopefully she'll leave me alone. But I don't want to bring up the life insurance thing with her because that's going to give me major anxiety. So she's asking you here not to help, right?
yeah, I think she's just saying,
Well,
I'll take care of it, and you don't have to do anything.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I was just, we don't get to speculate on what people thought, so that's why I was about to interrupt you. But that's okay. Because you say, okay, you say, all right, I'll stay out of it, right?
Yep,
So she's clearly, you interpreted this as that she wanted you not to have contact with Megan, not to get involved with Megan, right?
yep,
She went further. She said, thanks, hopefully she won't get you involved. I just wanted to give you a heads up because I was thinking about how her husband got in contact with you, so I can't remember if it gave her your phone number and I first went on hospice, or if he just called your insurance phone number because he had done my taxes. And then if you can scroll up. Oh, that's the end. So you never did go back and forth with Megan because, among other things, even though you offered, Kacee is splitting you off saying, don't communicate.
yeah,
Do you remember she even talked to you and texted you about, hey, I don't want her at the house, so if she comes over, tell her to go away.
yeah,
Now, when she's telling you, that's before, for instance, the events that we're talking about, where, as we now know, she is inviting Megan over to engage in an insulin overdose. You didn't know that, of
No.
course. So she's already told you that she wants you to expel Megan, to keep Megan away, that she's broken it off with Megan, that she doesn't like Megan and she's fighting, and this is in April. Right?
yeah.
All right. I just wanted to touch on the subject of, you can take that down, on publishing. Thank you very much, brother. You had talked about some blessings, and that Kacee had asked you to give her blessings periodically, right?
Yep.
Those blessings come from a pretty darn serious place in your spiritual beliefs. Agreed?
They can, yeah.
I mean, I think you explained it. It is God empowering someone who holds a position, a certain position, bishopric at some point, to give these blessings to people for various purposes, right?
Yes,
Now, Kacee knew that that's the strength of your belief and that it was religious and where it came from, right?
yeah,
So she asked you to do that. And you mentioned she didn't ever ask you to give her a blessing in relation to a release and to a dying. She didn't, right?
right,
Instead, she asked you to do it on some other subjects. And one was to bless her in relation to her health and getting better and beating cancer, right?
yeah,
She asked you to give her a spiritual blessing about cancer that she didn't have. Right? And you did, didn't you?
and I don't know that it was specifically about cancer, but, she was sick, and so a blessing of healing and
Healing.
comfort.
healing and comfort for reasons that after her death you learned she didn't have, right?
Specifically with the cancer, right, but she had a lot of other health issues that she would have wanted a blessing for.
All right. Let me go to this other subject. We had talked, this is a part of the investigation, not as personal, so I'm gonna move off something that personal and just talk about the investigation and the evidence, okay? I'm not gonna traipse you through all the things again about all the roles you've had here. I think that'll probably come out with investigative witnesses, but I want to talk about one feature we touched on yesterday and expand on it and clarify it and let this jury understand it, and I'm gonna call it the Fanta box. You want them to put it up, or are you ready? Either way.
I'm ready.
You're already plugged in, so, sorry.
I'm not a
You're negging on you. This is actually State's Exhibit 7. Could that be published? That from your computer? That's a clip.
Are you
Can
offering,
you
are
switch-
you offering 7?
State's 7 is in.
Oh.
That's why I was gonna use it. It's the photo of the Fanta box. So that's all right. If you could leave your, well, you probably can't put it here and not
We
publish
can
it.
publish it.
That's my fault. We're using the 2 computers here on publishing. Now this Fanta box, while it's coming up to be publishing, just a little reminder, not that everyone needs it, but after the police had come on the 12th and left, this Fanta box evidence, as far as you're aware, was not known about, right?
Right.
Then the police come and do this search. I kept calling it, referring to a warrant, and you might have not, that might not mean anything to you about warrant, but still trying to get Exhibit 7 up. But,
My computer froze, sorry.
okay. We'll get it up. I'll just lay out the sort of the history of it. Then they search in connection with their investigation with a team on the 14th of August, a couple days later. And then say you can go ahead and go about your business in the home, right?
I mean, dates I'm not gonna remember, but
That's what I'm telling you.
sequence of events, yeah, a couple of days after.
Thanks. And I'll try to tell you because these things are known and it's not fair to ask you therefore to have to remember them cold. Okay, this is State 7. Now, when you go out, you find this, I think, on the 18th. At any rate, a couple days after that search, right? A number of days. Correct?
Yeah,
And this I'm talking about, of course, it didn't look like it's in plaintiff 7. It was this Fanta box, and this Fanta box was in the garbage can that we had talked about, right?
correct.
And as we went through that and laid that out yesterday, this garbage can's over there on the patio. We're gonna see it in a minute, we're gonna play a clip.
Okay.
But you go out that patio door that you would describe, that's where Kacee would be, right?
Yeah,
That's where people would go and come that were her friends, and how she would leave and arrive for her life, for the way she operated there, right?
yeah,
She'd sit out there on that patio and smoke and talk. Sometimes you could overhear it, things like that, right?
yeah, yeah,
That's Kacee's garbage can.
yep.
And you find, and you address that garbage can, the only reason is you're cleaning up Kacee's past. And that's why you end up coming into contact with this Fanta box.
Correct.
Now, the Fanta box is not surprising insofar as Kacee, that's her favorite drink. Kacee bought and drank Fanta, orange.
Yep.
And as a matter of fact, did you know that they found cans of it in her room on the 12th?
Yep,
As you take it out to crush it, to put it in the garbage or recycling, wherever you put it,
yeah,
I won't put you on the spot for that. There's something in it. It's this black rag, right?
yep,
And syringes and insulin. That's what you end up finding out is in it.
yes,
So, okay, at this point in time, this is the, I think, 18th, but at any rate, you absolutely know that there's an investigation going on and that Kacee is believed to have died because of an insulin overdose, right?
yes,
You've discussed that regularly with Detective Forney and Special Agent Hale, right?
yeah,
So here you come across insulin syringe in a garbage can right outside where Kacee would put her garbage, where Kacee would go. And so you call Detective Forney, right?
yep,
And say, hey, you tell her what you found, right?
yeah,
Now, she doesn't tell you to hold the scene, don't touch anything, I'll be over, or I'll send a CSI over, or we'll collect it, just leave it. She just tells you, hey, set it out and photograph it. Do you remember that?
I don't remember anything about the conversation.
Okay. Well, she'll be on the stand and I'll ask her. At any rate, I think you had said that this looks like the workbench and looks like a photograph that you could have taken because, well, you said you don't remember what Farney told you, but it was something. Farney told you to do something and it certainly wasn't do nothing, right?
Yeah, my brother did a lot of woodwork and he built that bench, and that bench was out on the patio. So I would have picked up the box and just put it on that bench I don't even remember taking the picture, but I'm sure I did, so.
And again, you said you don't remember the exact conversation, and I guess that's fair, but it'll become clear with this clip that we're going to show anyway, because Detective Farney, I'm sorry, does come over on the 19th for a couple hours to do a number of things at your house, right? Remember that? The next day? You don't remember? Well, let's show some clips, and maybe we'll end up having to show more. Maybe we can do it with the detective, though, too, since you obviously don't have these things in your possession in terms of body cameras and stuff like that. Let me tell you that it was the 19th, and that Special Agent Hale's Detective Forney and some other people who are going to be witnesses or related, I don't think, but came over, and I guess I'm going to ask you what the purpose is. Ultimately, I'm going to have to ask them. But let me ask you if you recall that among the things that were done when they came over that day was address this question of the Phantom box. Do you remember that?
Of what?
The Phantom box evidence.
Yeah. I don't remember the specifics of any conversation.
I'll probably have to do that then with the detective. If it is the case that the detective just asked you to put the evidence in a plastic bag and she would pick it up, you would have done that, right?
Yeah.
You don't recall being told to use gloves or take any precautions when you put this evidence into a plastic bag so she could just pick it up, right? You said
I
you
don't
don't recall
recall.
that.
Yeah, I would have put it in a plastic bag if I was instructed.
Let me show you what's on the screen right now and see if you recognize where that is.
That's the downstairs kitchen.
Now again, you were never asked to take pictures of your house or, to your knowledge, had any police officers come in and take pictures so they could document what it looked like or anything like that, right?
Right.
But here we are on some body camera. Do you recognize that's you? In the right, with that ball cap on?
Yep.
Okay, you're down in the kitchen, there's some boxes, and I'm going to move to admit this clip as defendant's B.
Ms. Hunt?
I guess I don't know how much of, are you playing the entire thing?
How long is it?
52 seconds.
Oh, it's on there. This is a clip that is 52 seconds, and I'm happy to play it through non-published before the prosecution has to make a decision about whether they object, if that's appropriate. It comes off discovery.
Ms. Hunt?
It doesn't.
I
I don't think I have any objection at this point.
I will say, I think I heard in the question about whether it's an original. And I will inform, the only difference is that Detective Varney wears her body camera upside down. And so this did have to be flipped around, and that's why the dates and times are at the bottom. Or is there any other?
Still no objection, Ms. Hunt?
No, not at this time.
Thank you. Court will receive defendant's exhibit B. Wish to publish?
Yes, please, Your Honor, and there's also audio. Let me stop it right there. Right there. Oh. Go back a little bit, sorry. Marissa. Till we can see that bag. That's good enough. Lay it until you can see the bag if you can, please. Right there. Can you see what Detective Barney is holding up there in a plastic bag?
Yes.
Does it look like some of the stuff that you had taken out of the Fanta box?
Yes.
When you said you're not sure exactly what she asked on the phone and such. You don't see a Fanta box there, right?
Right.
You don't see the black rag there, right?
Right.
Okay, we can play on. Okay, if you could pause for a moment. Where are you headed out to?
The patio.
That's the door you had drawn on your diagram out from the kitchen to the patio, right?
Yeah.
Right, we can continue to play it. I may ask you to pause and I'll give you some, boom, let's pause there. So here's the patio. Those are the chairs. This is where Kacee would be with her friends, would smoke,
Yeah.
stick her garbage in that gray can there, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's where you found the evidence, right?
Yes.
Is that to the left of it, the desk you're talking about? The workbench?
No, that's
Oh, that looks
grill.
like
That's a barbecue that with the little side table
That's
folded
fine.
up or up.
I should have realized that. I'm gonna go on, let's go ahead and play it. Stop. That is Detective Barney having you pick up the piece of evidence that she hadn't asked you to yet collect with your bare hands out of the trash can that you ultimately retrieved it the day before. Is that right?
Yeah.
Go ahead and play it. Now, it looks like we don't have, stop it there, will you? We can't see the bag. Does this refresh your recollection that you're talking to her about the stuff she had, that bag she was holding in connection with the Fanta box?
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember anything about the conversation.
Okay. Is there not the ability to play the volume, or did we choose not to? Okay. checking on volume.
Mr. Farnsworth, do you need to take something? I noticed an alarm went off.
Did it beep?
Yeah, just before I came up here, I had a shot, so I think that'll take care of me.
Obviously, we're stopping any second you need to.
I'm good.
You know that, right?
I'm good.
Okay, play it. Boom. In fairness, let's go back a bit if we can, because we can at least slightly hear the volume if we're quiet. I'm not sure why we don't have it stronger, but let's, if we're all quiet, and play it again from there, for your benefit, Mark, to refresh your recollection that you're talking to her about the box, about the evidence that you're holding in your bare hand. Okay.
With that box, and everything was in the box, but it was stuck in here, I usually pull these out and stamp them down. And I could feel there was something in there, so.
And this is not yours.
Well, it could be, but I have no idea for sure.
Boom. So that refreshes your recollection. The Detective Varney comes over to you, talks about the Phantom Box evidence, talks to you about who it could be, talks about where you found it. You retrieve it right out of a garbage can, and in front of Detective Varney, stick it back in the garbage can, right?
Yeah.
That's where it stayed. You ultimately threw it away from there? Remember?
Yeah, at some point, I would have stamped it down and taken it to the big garbage can that goes out to the curb.
Same for the black rag.
Yeah, probably. I don't remember.
Let me change topics and subjects again to what will probably be my final. You were asked some questions by the prosecutor yesterday about what Kacee did in the form of stealing money from your grandparents, right?
My parents.
I'm sorry, her grandparents, her
Yeah.
grandparents.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. I'm prone to that. So let's start over. You know that Kacee was stealing money from your grandparents, right?
From my
Objection,
parents.
misstates evidence.
Yeah,
Did I say parents again?
you said my grandparents,
Hold
but
on, as to the objection,
Misstates evidence calls for a legal conclusion.
I thought we'd been through this, but I can lay foundation.
please do.
Sounds like we're gonna have to take this a little bit backwards. At some point, there were irregularities with your parents' third time's a charm bank accounts, right?
yeah,
And you talked about that a bit yesterday, and I want to talk about it more, all right?
okay,
Sounds like we need to start from what the final conclusion was about that stuff, okay?
okay,
Because in relation to that activity, there was concerns that things were done with that card that were not your parents doing them, right?
correct,
Money being used on those accounts that wasn't your parents using it, right?
right,
Now, you wanted to know and investigate that. You said that yesterday, right?
yeah, my sister and I were trying to figure out what was happening.
And even though that investigation into what happened, that happened throughout a time and to a point where after Kacee had passed, right?
Right,
Now, we're gonna get to the point, the point about, she might have known about it, okay? But let's just talk about what your investigation resulted in. Did you involve complaints to authorities.
Yeah, we got in contact with the credit card company and my parents' bank.
Did you also, did it end up getting reported for an investigation on elderly abuse to the Department of Health and Human Services?
Yes,
And in terms of police work, you certainly informed Detective Farney and Special Agent Hales about it, right?
I don't recall.
You might have to play some clips. You don't recall that even that on the 12th, that day that we saw you walking in the Fanta box and showing it then, that you and Kylie and Kay were all down asking Detective Farney and Special Agent Hales what you could do about it, and then it looked like money was missing?
Yeah, I don't recall. That wouldn't, I don't think that would have been on the 12th.
Well, I don't want to challenge you too much on the dates and times again. We've seen the body camera and we know, and it sounds like they haven't shown you. But that continued on, you investigated it. Elderly abuse was investigated by a state agency, right?
Yeah, and I was surprised to hear from them. Some lady, I think her name was Joanne, and one other came, but when they showed up at my parents' house, that was surprising to me. I don't know how they got involved.
And you talked to Detective Farney and Special Agent Hales about it being money that was ultimately, your concern was taken and stolen unauthorized by Kacee, right?
Yeah,
And even we're told by Farney that you could use a case number, generate a police case number to use to try to get some refunds from the banks and things, right?
yes,
Certainly Detective Farney and Special Agent Hales did not push back to you on the notion that Kacee had taken the money. They said they'd help you in that regard so that you could try to get some of it back, right?
yeah,
So the investigation is done regardless of whether you know how it was generated for elderly abuse by a state agency, correct?
yes.
And you knew that they got it a little screwed up. They wondered whether or not Kay was involved, remember?
I don't remember that.
At any rate, a result of that investigation was communicated to you, right?
Yes,
And that it was supported for elderly abuse for Kacee taking the money, right?
yes,
And ultimately as well, do you remember that the taking of money, I won't use the word theft, Kacee taking the money had ramped up in the 2 months prior to her death?
yes,
And ultimately it was $68,000, wasn't it?
I don't know that I ever knew what the exact amount was, but it was significant.
Now, the prosecutor kept asking you what you would have done and whether you would have tried to put her in jail and things like that, but was also pressing some sort of notion that you didn't confront Kacee directly about it.
We didn't know what the issue was until after Casee's death.
So even though Kacee presumably knew what she was doing, you hadn't figured it out enough to tell her, right?
Right,
However, you honestly referenced that you had your suspicions, spoke about bank records with Kay, and spoke about canceling the credit card, right?
yes,
And that discussion was roughly 4 days before Kacee's death, right?
yeah, somewhere in that time frame.
And that you believed and worried that Kacee was privy to that Kacee could have heard about it, could have known about it, right?
Yeah,
And that worried you, didn't it, after the fact, after Kacee was dying?
yeah,
Because there was discussions early on about whether or not Kacee could have committed suicide, right?
yeah,
You didn't know.
no,
when you found out about this theft, you did worry about that in connection with whether she committed suicide, didn't you?
Yes,
And you got a hold of Detective Varney so you could tell Detective Varney about your concerns, right?
I don't recall that, but wouldn't surprise me.
I'm going to play a recording if I'm allowed. Could you put what I'll call defendant's C up? Or pull it, it's audio.
It's already up.
I guess, can I get some more foundation about what this is?
I'm gonna ask if this is your voice, to see if you recognize your voice. Or I could state the foundation the state would like.
Ms. Hunt?
I guess play a few seconds and see if he recognizes it. I just don't know at all what this is yet.
And let's be careful, not sure why, but let's be careful about foundation. Trying to lay foundation that a phone call was made to Detective Varney on the subject of theft, and the concern of a theft might be related to what Kacee would do if she thought she was gonna get caught. You had that concern, right?
Yeah,
And you do not remember the date, but the concern was great enough that you made a call to Detective Varney on the telephone, okay? Right?
I don't specifically remember, but I can see myself doing that, yeah.
Let me play a little bit of this to see if you recognize your voice. If we have a good sound this time. You recognize that voice?
No,
Okay, so my sister and I,
Let me stop there.
yeah,
You recognize that voice?
yep,
That's you, right?
that's my annoying voice, yeah.
I find it quite calming, Mark, so we can disagree on that. All right. Represent that this is a phone call. The witness has identified his voice. I guess it goes to will lay further foundation if the state still requires it with Detective Varney.
Ms. Hunt?
No objection.
Thank you. Court received Defense Exhibit C. You can publish.
Sure, let's start from the beginning and see how loud we can get it, unless it's really super loud.
Hey, is this Mark?
it is.
Hey, Mark, what you got?
Okay, so my sister and I, on last Tuesday, going through my mom and dad's banking statements, we had things put on all of their accounts
Okay.
about a month or 6 weeks ago, because they just can't do it anymore.
Okay.
And Kaylin was saying, I can't account for about $1,000.
Okay.
And we were talking about that in the kitchen on Tuesday. And I said, okay, tomorrow morning I'll go down to the bank and I'll get their banking statements from the last 3 months. And I'm pretty sure Kacee was there in the kitchen when she and Kaylin and I were talking.
Okay.
But I went into the bank and got these statements, and there's about $1,700 that it looks to us, and Kaylin and I don't know. We're going back into the bank next week to have our friends at the bank explain what this stuff is. And it looks like there's about $1,700 of Kacee over the last couple of months that taken out of my parents' account.
Well, I found a credit card statement that I need to ask you about. It's similar in nature to that, but I'm actually here in Santa Cruz, so I'm going to call you back if that's okay.
Okay.
Okay, I appreciate
Yeah, I was
it.
just thinking that if Kacee, this would wipe Kacee out if she felt like we were gonna find out what she'd been up to.
Okay, yeah, maybe you can look into it before I can call you back. It's his Cabela's credit card. Your dad's statement was in her room. The credit card is almost $13,000, and it looked like at least the recent charges were things like Venmo, DoorDash, things that I'm guessing your dad aren't doing, like Apple.com. So if you want to look into that, or we can talk about that a little later, but I'm going to go for now, and I'll keep it updated, okay?
Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You ever concerned that if Kacee was certainly in a point she could overheard and known about your intent to investigate the theft, right?
Yes,
You were concerned that's important information that Detective Farney should have, right?
yes,
As you said, because if she thought you were gonna find out, it would wipe her out.
yep,
She would react very severely.
Objection calls for speculation.
I'll strike that and move to this. You don't know what it would have done, but you did get ready even as recently as last February, just weeks ago, and have a conversation to prepare for trial, right, with the prosecutors?
yes,
The subject came up again even when you talked to them, right?
yeah,
You once again told them that discussion you and Kay were having in the kitchen was at a time when it was in the presence of Kacee, right?
yes,
You're probably concerned, Kacee. Remember that? Told them that again.
Calls for speculation.
Sustained.
The subject came up again that we just heard in that call as recently as a couple of weeks ago when you talked to the prosecutors, right?
yes,
And you specifically gave them your concerns and impressions in hindsight. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that, but I would guess that yes, I probably,
Your concerns, your beliefs, your knowledge of this whole subject in this circumstance, 2 weeks before this trial, is it could have been a motive for Kacee to commit suicide. You told them that.
a possibility, yes.
Mark, thanks for answering the questions. That's all I have on this.
Thank you. Redirect?
Yes, I'll try to be brief. You were just asked about parents' finances and kind of the timeline of when you had been suspicious of or ultimately discovered that something happened, right? You remember that?
Yes,
You weren't part of, you were asked if officials were contacted and did an investigation. You maybe would have given them relevant information, but you certainly weren't part of the investigation team.
no,
As to the objection, overruled.
So again, you're not part of the investigation team.
no,
On August 16th, Mr. Williams just played you that clip where you're calling Detective Farney, and at the time you're saying that $1,700 is missing or you're not sure what happened to $1,700, does that sound right?
Yeah.
And then you were asked about, it's heard in that call that, something about this would have wiped Kacee out. Do you remember what you meant by that at the time, wiped out?
Yeah, it would have been emotionally traumatic for her.
You were asked about a conversation that you had with the state a few weeks ago in preparation for trial, and at that point, you said, in hindsight, it may have been a possible motive for suicide. Is that fair?
Yes.
Did you, at the time that Kacee was alive, did anything about her demeanor, behavior, anything like that indicate to you that she was suicidal?
No.
Did anything at the time indicate to you that she was concerned about you looking into the finances?
No.
Even though you believe she may have overheard a conversation that you had with your sister about the finances, nothing about her demeanor or behavior or anything she said to you gave you concern at the time that she was concerned about that?
No, the morning of August 12th, the conversation that Kacee and I had in the downstairs kitchen was really good.
Do you remember how long ultimately that, whatever investigation happened about the credit cards, do you remember how long it took before they kind of came back with some kind of conclusion?
I don't, because, you know, we had a couple of different credit cards that we were with different companies, if I remember right, that we were trying to do research into, and also into all of my parents' bank accounts. So I don't specifically remember details from each of those financial accounts that we were trying to look into.
Fair to say it took a bit of time to kind of figure out what had gone on?
Yeah.
We asked you, and Mr. Williams asked you a bit yesterday about, I'm going to change topics here. Remember we talked about the syringe you ended up finding after the flood when you're pulling up the carpet?
Yeah.
Yesterday you stated that you thought you found it in the middle of the floor. Have you since had a chance to review body cam of your conversation with Detective Farney about finding that syringe?
Yes.
Did that refresh your recollection of the circumstances of you finding that?
Yeah.
Tell us how, now based on your memory, how you found that syringe.
Okay, if you refer back to the video that we just looked at a few minutes ago where Detective Farney came over to the house and I gave her the plastic bag with the Fanta box contents. In that video, you can see stacks of boxes and everything like that. You know, when the carpet started to stink, I moved everything out of Kacee's room into the kitchen in there, and so that's why that kitchen looks like a bomb went off in there. When I started moving all of the stuff out, in Kacee's closet, it was stacked with those 13-gallon white trash bags full of Fanta cans and medical debris from her IV stuff that she used to do. And so I think that that syringe probably came from that pile of garbage that was in the closet, and I may have picked it up and put it somewhere, I don't know.
Do you remember at what point you contacted Detective Farney about finding that?
I don't.
I'm going to ask to show the witness what's been marked as State's Exhibit 151. me know when you see that.
Okay?
Do you recognize this?
Yes.
Is this the video that we just talked about that you reviewed about the circumstances about finding the syringe?
Yeah, now that closet door that is open there is not where, it's the other closet door there that you can see to,
Oh, okay, let me stop you there, because we'll get to that in a second, but you recognize this video?
yeah.
I'm going to move to admit States Exhibit 151.
Mr. Williams?
Once again, we've never received this as an exhibit. We'll address on how much has been done with this witness overnight. It appears, is it 11 seconds long?
Yes.
It appears, since it's right side up, that it was something we gave you?
No,
You did check. I'm just trying to make sure it's of the same thing. I don't know. 151?
yes,
Court will receive States 151, wish to publish.
yes.
Is that another syringe?
Yeah.
And then diabetic syringe?
Yeah.
Where was it?
It was on the floor here somewhere. It was in a closet on the floor.
Oh, okay. Is that,
All right. So you said it was on the floor here somewhere, and then you said it was in the closet on the floor. Does that refresh your recollection more about how you found that syringe?
Yeah.
You talked about the closet having been full of trash and medical supplies. Do you remember if you said it might have been on top of those, all that other things in the closet? Do you remember exactly where that syringe was?
I don't remember exactly that. This used to make me a little mad because Kacee would throw all of her trash in those 13-gallon trash bags and then just throw it in that closet. And then like on Monday, she'd take 7 or 8 of them out and throw them in the big trash can and fill it up. And now the rest of the week, nobody else had anywhere to put garbage before it went out to the curb. And so, that's,
So there was a lot of things in that closet.
yeah, and common.
Either way, fair to say that did the video refresh your recollection that that syringe was found in the closet?
Yeah.
What other, you said other medical supplies were in there. What kinds of things?
Mainly things that she would have used for her IV treatments that she did.
So we talked.
Tubing, other types of the big syringes that, I have no idea how that stuff works, but that kind of thing. And then little vials of whatever it was she was taking.
You said syringes are part of maybe the supplies that were in there.
Yeah.
And you just said bigger syringes. How do you differentiate? I believe in the video you say an insulin syringe. How are you able to differentiate between an insulin syringe versus a bigger syringe?
Size and diabetic syringes have an orange cap. The syringes that Kacee used for IV came individually packaged in like a plastic thing that was probably about that big. So those kind of, the packaging for medical supplies and things like that were also in those trash bags.
Mr. Williams asked you if you believed that Kacee was on hospice, and you said right. You
Yes.
said you did, right?
Yeah.
What made you believe that Kacee was on hospice?
And she told me.
Were there other circumstances that seemed to support that to you?
Yeah, she had nurses that would come occasionally, on-site physical therapy or in-home physical therapy, weekly deliveries of medical supplies.
The weekly deliveries of medical supplies, were you ever privy to what that kind of stuff looked like?
No, they came in a white box every week, and there was, some weeks there would be multiple boxes because they'd send the bags of fluid. But that was, like a regular occurring thing that those supplies would be delivered.
You mentioned bags of fluid. Do you know what that fluid was?
Saline.
Saline.
Yeah.
Do you know the purpose that Kacee would have needed that saline for?
For the IV treatment.
Did you believe that to be for her cancer or? For
Yes.
her, okay. Do you know if you know, do you know if that kind of treatment is necessary for her kidney condition?
I wouldn't know.
You were asked about blessings, and Mr. Williams said that Kacee asked you for blessings surrounding her cancer. You said maybe not specifically cancer, but comfort for maybe other health issues as well. Is that right?
Yes.
What other health issues did you know that Kacee had?
Anxiety, the kidney issues, retaining fluid. So there's a lot that she had going on.
And then we know from testimony and your testimony yesterday that she got a knee replacement, right?
Yes.
We heard from the surgeon that did that knee replacement that was performed on July 23rd. Does that refresh your recollection? You did not have a specific memory of when that knee replacement happened.
Yes.
Does July 23rd sound fair?
Yes.
So that's about, again, my math's not great, but maybe 2.5 weeks before her death.
Yeah.
You mentioned that she had physical therapists, people coming over. Do you remember the time frame of those folks coming to the house?
I don't.
Are you aware if she was performing physical therapy for her knee replacement?
Yeah.
Mr. Williams showed you the body cam of this trash can on the patio with the Fanta box. Remember that?
Yes.
In the body cam, Detective Farney asks, could this have been your insulin? I believe you said that it could be yours, you don't know. But I want to clarify what you meant by that. Because yesterday we had testimony that, I guess, is that insulin that you would have thrown in that garbage can?
No, I wouldn't have. And, if there wasn't an investigation of a death, if I would have found that, since that orange cap was off of it, I'd have thrown it away.
But it's not a place that you originally would have thrown
No.
it away.
No.
So when you say in the video it could have been yours, what did you mean by that?
Well, it could have been taken out of the refrigerator, and I don't remember I don't know if I even looked at the date, the expiration date on the insulin. But if it would have been older, or even possibly Kyle's, I don't inventory that and keep track of it.
So that insulin could have at one point belonged to you, but it's not where you would have thrown it away.
Right.
How did that patio trash can typically get emptied?
I would take it up to the big trash can that goes out to the curb in the garage.
How frequently would you do that?
It'd take her about a month to fill it up with like empty cigarette cartons and Fanta boxes and just that kind of stuff.
Do you remember the last time that trash had been emptied before you found the Fanta box?
I don't.
Judge, I want to ask permission to do a demonstration. I've talked to defense about this, and my understanding is he does not have an objection. I think it would require a lapel mic. We have a glucometer here that is the same type and model of the one that's at instance in this case, and I want the witness to demonstrate for the jury how that's used, the process of testing one's blood sugar.
Mr. Williams?
Yeah, we had talked about it, then it wasn't done on direct. Clearly, that's way outside the scope.
He asked about it in cross, but a glucometer, types of glucometers, how many there were present in the home came up.
I don't have objection if they want to do it.
All right, you can. You want to get a mic?
Yes. Permission to approach the witness.
Absolutely.
This isn't going to involve actually pricking a finger and drawing blood.
Certainly, no. No, he's just going to walk through the process.
I'm happy to do that if you want. Okay.
And through a no.
With your leg, are you able to maybe just kind of come down and stand right here and demonstrate for the jury
Yeah.
so they can see a little easier? This one. Sorry, just make sure that it got clicked on. Oh. At the top, with toggle. Thank you, Brooke. Thanks. All right, so I'm handing you this demonstrative. And without actually pricking your finger, and if you could verbally walk through the steps that you're taking, show how measuring your blood sugar happens with this monitor.
Okay. All right. So this is what they call the test strip. So you take that out, insert it into the monitor, that activates, turns the monitor on, then it gives you instructions to prick your finger, get some blood, then you just put the blood on the end of that test strip, and then this starts counting down. And the older models of these used to count down for 30 seconds, and I think this one, I'm guessing, would count down from 5 seconds. They got better over time. And then it would flash a number of what your blood sugar level is right here.
Okay, thank you. Using that glucometer, you said you prick your finger. Typically, how much blood is coming out with that prick?
Just one drop.
How do you typically clean that up after you've pricked your finger? Do you use like a cotton ball or a tissue or wipe it somewhere? I know that that might differ, but
I lick my finger and wipe it on my pants.
if I could just have one moment. I don't have any other questions.
Mr. Williams?
Briefly, Your Honor. So we're all thrown a few things. First of all, Kacee, with all the work she was doing in that house, with what people were doing, with how she was helping your mother, she certainly used the glucometer would know how to use it, right?
Yes.
But up this hospice thing, she told you she was on the hospice that you assumed was for her cancer treatment, right?
Right.
And she had told you that over the course of years, hadn't she?
Yep.
I heard, you referred to this syringe on the floor that you found after police had been in that room for days and searched it.
I need a verbal answer.
Yes.
EMTs had been in that room, right?
Yes.
Police officers had been around that room, right?
Yes.
Strike it, that's argument. You said that you had been shown this and refreshed your recollection since last night?
Yeah.
I mean, since, your testimony yesterday, you've been working with the prosecutors in preparation for today's testimony?
I met with them for just a second, yeah,
Was that last night or this morning?
this morning.
And they had took that opportunity to show you evidence and refresh your recollection outside the presence of this jury?
Yeah.
Was Special Agent Hales there?
No.
Was Detective Farney there?
No.
Well, let's go to this. I don't have any way of, I guess, except asking you what the total circumstances were there then, but it's about, you were asked these questions again about suicide, and again, her seeming to you okay, as you're asking her to clean up her dishes in the morning, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
Even though there had been this discussion that you thought she might have heard a couple days before that would wipe her out and cause her emotional trauma if she knew she was going to get caught. But in the morning that you engage with her, she seems okay.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about what the prosecutors have talked to you about that morning. They never told you that in the previous couple days she had generated a text script about inviting Meggan over? Did they ever tell you that?
No.
Did they tell you that that script was about doing suicide with insulin?
No.
She hadn't told you she was going to use a glucometer in the process of that?
No.
She hadn't told you that she had taken the glucometer and even used it and tested her blood before?
No.
You didn't know, in relation to that morning, that for days she had been communicating with the person she told you she didn't want to be around, right?
Right.
And invited her over for those events that we now know occurred, right?
Yeah, I don't know that she invited her, but
She, that morning, certainly, Kacee never told you that,
no.
and you know it now, right?